Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the piece I arranged for the final project for Music Hum for Professor Ann Levitsky. So the piece I arranged was Summer by Joe Hisaishi. So this is the same piece that I analyzed at the beginning of the semester for the paper. And I was thinking it'd be fun to kind of take the themes that I analyzed out of that paper for this song, which is basically like childhood, nostalgia, kind of like this wistfulness, and try to incorporate my own experiences of summer into it. My kind of thought process behind this was so I'm a CS major and I spend a lot of my time working with technology and computers. And one of the things that I think we should talk about more in our major is how technology impacts our lives and how we can be responsible in kind of creating new technology. Um, so I wanted to kind of um, incorporate how technology has kind of started to permeate into my life, starting from like maybe middle school was when like I went from like we went from like a world that was still kind of non-tech and moved to like a more fully tech world where everyone had smartphones, everyone was on social media. Um, so we're gonna discuss that a little bit more later. First, let's just listen to the piece together that I arranged. Okay. So yeah, I only arranged like the first minute or so. Um, and I already felt like it was starting to get a little bit crowded with the kind of number of samples that I was using. But yeah, let's like kind of walk through it together. So I guess the goal of this arrangement again is to see if I could like take the general feeling of summer and childhood and nostalgia that this piece originally conveyed with its like harmonies and melodies, and to adapt it to like what I kind of remember as being summer in my childhood and at least like where I grew up, like my group of friends, like my generation. Hopefully, this some of these themes in general applies to them. So a lot of these sounds will be like kind of technology related, and a lot of them will be kind of purely non-tech, I guess organic sounds. And I wanted to kind of mesh them together. And I saw like I feel like our generation was kind of on the cusp of being from like a still not fully techie world to like a very like techie world, as at least like from our perspective. Um, so I wanted like the kind of non-tech and tech aspects to kind of mesh together. Um, yeah, so let's play through it together. So at the beginning, like I don't know if you can hear it very well, but there's like a sound of like a pencil scratching on paper. Um, I really liked collecting mechanical pencils as a kid, and I liked writing things. And also, I kind of thought of this as the lead up to summer vacation was writing exams and writing papers. And so this is kind of the prelude to summer. Once you finish writing, summer begins. So the what would have been like the basso continuo part, or the piano two part, is kind of like this that kind of like continues throughout the entire song. Um, so I replaced that with a kind of synthy sound that I thought like reminded me of like video games from the 90s and 2000s, that I played a lot. And well, I kind of played video games throughout my summers as a kid. So this, just like that, this basso continuo part also continues throughout the entire piece. So this kind of techie, like primitive game sound also permeates throughout the summer in this piece. So the piano one part, which was like I guess the counter melody in a way. I played that on a classical guitar, so I have it right here. So like it's, yeah, so and so on. I really wanted a ukulele for this part actually, but I had trouble like arranging the kind of pitch range of this part on the ukulele, so I ended up using a classical guitar, which I thought sounded kind of similar, and I palm muted it, so like it had this kind of dampened sort of ukulele sound to it, hopefully. Yeah, so that's how I kind of arranged the piano one part. All right. So the lead part, I guess I added a lead guitar that just played the exact same thing as the strings for the melody. And I played that on the acoustic guitar. So yeah, like with both this and the other guitar part, like with any of these recorded instrumentals, there's gonna be like a lot of imperfections because I'm not a very good guitarist. I'm pretty like I was self-taught, so there's gonna be like issues with like the timing and the notes, and I didn't like that at first, but it kind of grew on me because it was like the imperfections kind of just reminded me, like it's a pretty honest assessment of my childhood summers. Like it didn't go perfect and there were some hiccups, but overall like um the idea came across and like the melody still came through, um and the kind of imperfections kind of added like some uniqueness and some texture to the song that I ended up really liking. um yeah, so let's continue to listen. Yeah, so let's play that sound again. Yeah, so that's a sampled like sound effect from a kind of online chat room that I used to play called Club Penguin. Um, and that would be the sound that kind of greets you when you log into the game. Um, yeah, especially when I was like kind of at my in my house during the summers, and I wanted to kind of talk to my friends online. We couldn't really get together for whatever reason. We would meet on Club Penguin, and for that reason, I think it's just a very nostalgic sound effect for me. Like I that sound that greets you when you first log into the game. So and it worked pretty well with the song, so I kept it in. Yeah, so that sound right there, play that again as well. Yeah, so that's the Wii kind of power on sound, I guess. It's a little jingle that plays when you turn on your Nintendo Wii. And I played, that was my first video game console, so it's very like also very nostalgic sound to me. Like I think my friends also had a Wii, and so like I think for at least our generation in our area, like I knew a lot of people had that console, so I'm sure that's a very nostalgic sound for a lot of people that grew up with that video game like console. Yeah, so that sound right there was let me play that again. So I actually recorded my bike in my garage. I took my iPhone and spun the back wheel. Um, so yeah, I biked around town a lot as a kid during the summers. So that's like kind of an integral part of my summer vacations that I thought I would include. And I think kind of makes up the childhood of a lot of people that kind of had bikes, obviously. Um, and I thought that would be like a very nostalgic sound for a lot of people. Yeah, so that sound right there, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to include it or not, but I ended up leaving it in. Oops. Yeah, so that's another video game like sound. It's from like a video game I played a lot as a kid, Pokemon, and I think that like hearing that kind of synthesized like game console sound effects, I think is very nostalgic for me, and a lot of people that like grew up in my generation, I think. And the reason why I might not have left this in was because it kind of clutters up. It was starting to sound really cluttered with all the sound effects that I was adding and samples. Um, so I wasn't sure whether like I would wanted to add another one, but I kind of was so attached to it that I ended up leaving it in, and it's in the final piece. Yeah, so like the last chord that I kind of played was it's a D major 7 chord, and I didn't want it to sound too resolved with like the D major chord, so I like made it like a little bit less resolved, a little bit more like there's something left to come, like it's still not finished, which it technically isn't because I didn't arrange the whole piece. But yeah, I wanted like to preserve the feeling in the original piece that like summer vacation was too short. Like, oh, I want more summer vacation, you know. And I think that chord like nicely kind of conveys that feeling. I also reused the bike sound effect, so the imagery I get in my head, I guess, when I put that in was like kind of the bike is left kind of toppled on its side, and the kid has kind of gone on to go back to school or like go to college, get a job, like move on with their lives. But like the bike is still there, like waiting for the kid. Like the childhood is still waiting for the people that have moved on and kind of gone on to become adults. But they're always looking back on like this kind of abandoned bike that that was part of their childhood. So that like I thought captured the kind of wistfulness of the original song. Yeah, I think something also I didn't get to talk about was let me play just the percussion sound. So yeah, I actually recorded this on a old Macintosh keyboard. So in elementary and middle school, we would have these typing exercises on these really actually awful keyboards. It's pretty hard to press down these keys. But they made up like a big part of my childhood, so I thought it'd be nice to kind of keep that in, especially because you don't really see that type of keyboard anymore, and like you don't really hear that type of click. So I thought like it would be very nostalgic to have that kind of sound effect throughout the song. So yeah, so that was the whole song, or the like at least my arrangement. I thought that it was the goal again was to like try to create some of these feelings of summer, like the wistfulness, the nostalgia, the childhood, using kind of just the textures of sounds that I used. And a lot of them were like not technological, and a lot of them weren't. And I tried to like mesh those together. So hopefully it was successful, and like it conveys at least my experience of summer, and hopefully like people who have similar experiences as me will relate to the samples and textures that I chose for my arrangement. So yeah, that's the whole project. And I really feel like I learned a lot when I was making this. This is my first time like trying to make an arrangement like this, and I feel like I was challenged a lot in terms of like arranging and then learning the guitar parts, and then finding sound effects that were both nostalgic and recognizable, and like didn't kind of take over the song. Like I was very tempted to use the Windows XP jingle, like dun 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 dun, like, oh no, that's a different one. But any of those would kind of just like take over, and you'd be like, and it would be feel very jarring to hear that in the song. So the ones I picked, like I tried to make them like feel like they were naturally part of the song. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, thank you for watching.